Hello, ladies and gentlemen, it's Mike here at Gamefromscratch. We got a major update on Epic Games v. Google lawsuit, and quite frankly, Epic just landed a knockout blow. It's amazing how one-sided this judgment was. It's sort of like the reverse of the Apple judgment. So if you don't know what we're talking about, way back in the prehistoric days of August 13th, 2020, Fortnite was kicked off the Android store. It was also kicked off the iOS App Store at the exact same time. It's because they updated it to include the ability to buy V-Bucks while circumventing the App Store and thus the 30% commission required. This immediately led to a lawsuit, and that lawsuit, well, today we've got pretty big closure on it, and the jury decided Google has an illegal monopoly in this App Store fight. There was a lot of scummy things going on behind the scenes, so there was a lot of sweetheart deals that were announced, things like they gave Spotify the ability to publish completely for free. Netflix was on for just 4% commission. They even had things in there where they were specifically targeting game developers and that they were specifically afraid of. So it showed Google was running scared of Epic specifically, and this was all decided by jury, unlike the Apple ruling. And the one big thing that got them here is that there was a big there was a lot of documentation, I guess you could say, of Google doing shady crap. And this ultimately came down to a series of questions that were asked to the jury, and these were how they were answered. So this is the filings from the Northern District of California, and here are the questions that the jury was asked. And again, for every count, the jury found for Epic Games and against Google. And I think these questions are the most important part here, so you get an idea of exactly how this judgment went. So question number one, did Epic prove by preponderance of the evidence and in accordance with the instructions given to you the existence of a relevant antitrust market? Now, this is a pretty big deal. This is one of those things that the judge in the Apple case kind of disagreed with, and this was kind of where everything hinged, because Google was arguing that they don't have a monopoly because Apple exists and they compete there, whereas they're saying that the monopoly exists in the world of Android. So the answer came back yes. So then question two is a follow-up to question one. If you answered yes to question one, please specify each relevant product market and associated geographic market that Epic proved. So basically they're saying they have a monopoly in Android app distribution market and the Android app in-app billing services for digital goods and services transactions everywhere except China is the answer here. Now, one thing that is kind of interesting, again, is if you find this to be true for Android, it also by default should be true for the iOS App Store, but I don't know. Then we go on to question number three. Did Epic prove by preponderance of the evidence and accordance with the instructions given to you that Google willfully acquired or maintained monopoly power by engaging in anti-competitive competition in any market you specified in question two? Now, there is a big one, because this is basically saying that Google did stuff that was bad in those markets to actually leverage things. And then we move on to question four, which was predicated by question three. If you answered yes to question three, specify the relevant product markets and associated geographic markets for your answer, and you're going to see, once again, Android app distribution and in-app billing, except in China. And then for answer number five, if you answered yes to question number three, so another follow-up question, did Epic prove by preponderance of the evidence and in accordance with the instructions given to you that it was injured as a result of Google's violation of antitrust laws? In other words, did what they do, their antitrust behavior, caused harm to Epic Games? And the answer was yes. And then we move on to number six. Did Epic prove by preponderance of the evidence and accordance with the instructions given to you that Google entered into one or more agreements that unreasonably restrain trade in a relevant antitrust market? And that's where some of their scumbag moves or their special deals or their sweetheart deals or their movements to block like some actual developments from competitors came into effect, and they found the answer was yes there as well. And then predicated off number six, we move on to number seven. Which of these agreements did you find to be unreasonable restraints of trade in accordance with the instructions given to you? And here we go. It's not one, it's three. The DDA agreements, the agreement with Google's alleged competitors or potential competitors under Project Hug or Game Velocity program. Yes, Google internally branded their documentation on their anti-competitive behavior, and agreements with OEMs that sell mobile devices, including MATA and RSA agreements. That basically is, if you want to sell on Android or use Android and play services, you need to like dance to our tune, more or less is the question there. And then we move on to question number eight. If the answer is yes to question 6, please specify each relevant product market and associated geographic market for your answer. And we've got the same answers here, App Store and in-app billing, and it was everywhere but China. And then number 9, if you answered yes to question 6, did Epic prove by preponderance of the evidence and according with the instructions given to you that it was injured as a result of Google's violation? The answer is, once again, yes. Question number 10, did Epic prove by preponderance of the evidence and accordance with the instructions given to you that Google unlawfully tied the use of Google Play Store to the use of Google Play billing? This is another thing. You are not allowed under the Sherman Act to do tying between using one monopoly to leverage another product offering. And here you can see, yes, they did. In response to that, if you answered yes, did Epic prove by preponderance of the evidence and in accordance with the instructions given to you that it was injured as a result? And the answer is yes. So 11 questions, 11 yeses. That is a pretty astonishing finding. They also say that the strength of it, like so that the jury went so hard in the favor of Epic, will make it much more likely to stand up in appeals, because no doubt appeals are going to come. That is the way the wheels of justice go, very, very slowly. So we do have a bit of a follow-up from Tim Sweeney. The reason why I find this article a bit interesting is he talks a little bit specifically about why Google failed and why Apple got away with it. So Sweeney attributed the win to the revelations during the trial that Google had allegedly deleted or failed to keep records such as chats about its secretive deal with app makers. He also noted that it had been a jury trial while the Apple case was decided by a judge. The brazenness of Google executives violating the law and then deleting all records of violating the law, Sweeney said in an interview with CNBC, that was really astonishing. There's very much not a normal court case. You don't expect a trillion-dollar corporation to operate the way that Google operated. Now, interestingly, again, I guess the judge gave the jury the guidance to just, for anything that was deleted, just assume the worst, which that's not good. That is not a good thing there. He also has a bit more of a breakdown of the difference between the Apple and the Google version, or the court experience that they had there. And so the difference between Apple and Google is Apple didn't write anything down. And because they're a big vertically integrated monopoly, they don't do deals with developers and carriers to shut down competition. They simply block at the technical level. So in some ways, funny enough, Apple was more insulated from this because you just can't install an Apple product. You can't get your stuff on there. There are no side loading or alternative app stores. You don't have people doing forks of it. They basically own the entire ecosystem, whereas Google just owns the operating system and the Play Store and the ad services and that stuff. So more or less, first off, they didn't write anything down. And second, they own the entire stack. So they didn't have to do that. And basically what they would do, if Spotify said, we're not going to be on your phone, then they would just say, okay. So it's a bit of a different power dynamic relationship between the customers and Apple. And Apple doesn't have OEMs. Apple is the OEM. So that kind of does change the way the structure works. During the Google trial, Epic Games instead focused on whether Google locked up the App Store market through deals with handset makers and whether it scared away users from using Android sideloading functionality through security warning. It specifically called out secretive revenue sharing contract deals with Samsung and Chinese handset makers, while these partners allegedly signed in exchange for supporting the Google Play Store on new devices. Also revealed that Google had entered into talks with Epic Games over an investment in the Fortnite maker. That doesn't look particularly good either. Of course, this is going to be appealed. They also have no questions of how much money they're going to make out of this, if any at all, because they didn't actually sue for damages. And it's going to be interesting to see how long they actually have to follow up on this. Now, interestingly enough, or as expected, I suppose you could say, Epic Games have done a victory lap. There's not really a ton here that wasn't covered in everywhere else, but on their blog, they do have a comment basically saying this is a good thing. We've got some lawsuits going forward, so there's promising legislation in process right now with the Digital Markets Competition and Consumer Bill in the UK and the Digital Markets Act in the EU. Why is it that it's always the EU that's saving us from these kind of things? But yeah, there's a couple of laws there as well. So they're quite happy with the outcome, although obviously it is going to take a little bit of time to have any kind of impact. Google stock did not go down appreciably, even though there are some headlines out there. Is this the end of Google? No, it's not. But they definitely, they got caught doing some bad things. Now, what I do find kind of interesting, though, is if this had gone first, and then the Apple trial, because one of the big problems they had with the Apple App Store trial was the lack of prior art kind of thing, like something to compare it to as a legal precedent. Well, now they have a pretty solid one about leveraging your app store against in-app purchases if an app store could represent a monopoly. And the judge there found that an app store couldn't. And in this case, a jury found that an app store is a monopoly, even if even if Apple exists in the other side of the world, they're their own separate monopolies. And that's what the jury found here, and that is the biggest major difference between these two in my case, in my opinion anyways. But what do you think of Epic v. Google? It's a good outcome for developers, no matter how you look at it. Not a great outcome for Google, certainly. And Epic Games, I don't know that they're ever going to win anything for this, but they're definitely on a crusade, and they won a battle on this one. So let me know what you think. Comments down below. I will talk to you all later. Goodbye.